proper way. So we are called to love ourselves. We are called to love our neighbors as ourselves. In other words, that means treating others like you would treat yourself, or treating others like you would have them treat you. The Bible says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And you know what? We truly can, but it's going to take a sacrifice. It's going to take a sacrifice of this flesh. Flesh does not want to be second. It wants to always be first. But you know what the Lord said? It says that he must increase, but we must decrease. When we begin to decrease, he increases, and he lifts you up at the proper time when we need to love our brothers and sisters, because this world, oh my goodness, this world needs a little help. You can be that little help to someone. You can show someone that the world might be dark, but there is light, and God's light shines in me, and I will shine that light of love on you so that you can feel its warmth and you can share it with someone else. It's easy to talk it, but to walk it is a different story. That's why we need Christ Jesus, our Lord and Savior, to show us how to walk it and not just talk it, because what the world needs is not another motto to say, but a model to see. Will you be that model that the world sees? Will you be that model that your family sees? Would you be that model that your friend sees? Because if you do it, they'll know that Christ is in you. And greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world.
Where can you buy a brand new Nissan with a lifetime warranty? Kingston Pike. Hey folks, Gerald Anderson with Ted Russell Nissan. You heard it right. Every new Ted Russell Nissan comes with a lifetime warranty. And that's a long, long time. Ted Russell Nissan on Kingston Pike.
Good morning and welcome to AM 1380 WYSH and Ask Your Neighbor. Ask Your Neighbor can also be heard and seen on our website, WYSHradio.com. And if you are in Anderson, Roane, or Morgan County and have Comcast cable, you can watch Ask Your Neighbor on BBB TV Channel 12. Ask Your Neighbor is the program where you call in and do just that. Ask Your Neighbor. Do you have a comment? Do you have a problem? Or do you have a question? Then call in and ask your neighbor. 865-457-1380 or toll free at 877-711-4005. And for those of you that might be listening or watching on the internet, you can email from our website, WYSHradio.com. Just click on the Contact Us button and email your questions. Now sit back and listen as listeners throughout East Tennessee and the entire world answer your questions on Ask Your Neighbor on BBB TV 12 and AM 1380 WYSH.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome into Ask Your Neighbor. It is the first Tuesday of the month, which means Dr. David Ayers joins us for the Ask the Doctor edition of Ask Your Neighbor. Good morning, Doc. How are you this morning, sir?
I am here.
Good.
Just better than last month.
Yeah. Last month was all snow.
Yeah, we got 10 inches. No, we got 7 inches, then 3 inches. So we had 10 inches altogether. Yeah, but sort of back to back. Before the first one melted, the second one came. And I live on a hill about like this radio station.
So no fun getting on and off.
Well, people asked me if I could get out of there. I said, yeah, it's just getting back is the issue.
Yeah. Get down, getting up.
Yeah. So there's still some nice snow in the hollow when I left.
Really?
Yeah. Most of it's gone. That rain took a lot of it. I don't know if you got the rain down here, but we got quite a bit of rain.
We did. We got quite a bit this weekend.
And some local flooding. And it's been interesting weather. Cold. Took a picture of my thermometer. It was 8 below zero there one day.
Jeez.
It didn't feel as bad, though. It was sometimes like 30 if the wind's blowing. But
oh, yeah. If the wind will cut you in half.
It just, when fall was first coming in, it shows you how your body acclimates to the temperatures because, 50 would be cold.
Exactly.
First of fall. Now it feels like it's a hot day. You can take your shirt off and run around.
Exactly.
Get a tan. That's the way the bodies are. we loaded up and brought some stuff down. We're still working on selling, and I have a new realtor now. But last time when I sold it and then that fell through, I had packed up all my books.
Oh, no.
I have a lot of books. And the books pack real well in boxes.
How about moving?
You can't pick them up.
Yeah.
So I have this trailer out here in your parking lot because I didn't have time to unload it before I came up here.
Full of books?
Yeah, like never been up the hill. I have my albums, so I have a lot of albums. They're heavy, too. So I have to unpack it after I leave here today. It was quite a trip. I usually get down here, I fill it up right before I leave home. I can get all the way down here on one tank of gas. And in my 2014 Acura, but it took 2 tanks to get down here hauling that load. It was quite a challenge.
Sounds like.
Yeah. Interesting.
Well, good that you made it.
Yeah. We live in an interesting world. Lots happened since I was here last. We had an inauguration and all that stuff. And that was weird. There are things going on, and I have no explanation for them. Some things I think I know, but if you notice, President Trump did not put his hand on the Bible.
I did notice that.
That's unusual. That would imply to me he was already president. He was already the commander-in-chief. I don't know. It's the first time I think that ever happened. He did it last time. So why didn't he do it this time? That was weird. And then Pete Hegseth said that helicopter thing was a continuity of government operation when the helicopter ran into the airplane the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that only happens when the president's dead or the government's collapsed or the military's taken over. What's the show with Kiefer Sutherland?
No,
Survivor or something?
The designated Survivor.
Yeah. That's when continuity government kicks in, like when the government's kaput.
Okay.
So what does that mean when he says the helicopter? I don't know. And then I guess that other thing was a plane. I don't know. It sounds horrible.
Ambulance
here and they crashed right in the middle of Philadelphia. I don't know, because somebody I follow, I mentioned her before, Tori, T-O-R-E. She's very good at predicting the future. Timing is always an issue. The thing itself eventually happens. But about a year or two ago, she said, planes are going to start falling out of the sky. and of course, then this stuff happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you listen to Tori, which I recommend, but you have to harden yourself because she was a sailor and she cusses like one. She started out like 17 in the Navy. And then they pulled her out to do special things. But she does predictive analytics, which is a kind of math that you put all this stuff in and you can somewhat predict the future. All righty. Well, and of course, a lot of medical stuff with Robert F. Kennedy trying to become the head of Health and Human Services. I guess they're voting today whether he comes out of committee.
Yep.
And then he'll go to the full Senate if he does. I think the best part was when he looked at Barry Sanders and told him how much money he was getting from Big Pharma.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And Elizabeth Warren was so mad hollering at him. I thought, aren't we civilized people? I mean, this is just want to become a position in the government. This is not like the man committed a crime and they're like Benghazi or something when there's people that died. It's just, but Big Pharma, a lot of money. I think Elizabeth Warren got like $1.7 million and Bernie got $1.9 million.
Yeah.
So, and almost everybody else, not just those two, trust me, everybody in Congress gets a lot of money from Pfizer and Moderna and Johnson & Johnson and all these companies. And this is one of the problems we have. They don't make decisions that are best for us. The best congressman I like to watch is I can't remember his name, from Knoxville. This is the mayor of Knoxville for a bit. He's congressman.
Tim Burchett.
Yeah.
Congressman Burchett, yeah.
He is direct and funny.
Yes, very.
Yeah.
On both counts.
he's talking about all those drones over New Jersey. He said they don't fly those down here because we just
That's true. That's pretty much true. Pretty much. So, remember, guys, if you have any questions about medicine or anything like that, 865-457-1380 or 877-711-4005. Doc's here to answer your questions if you have any.
Regarding RFK, I think I said before, I don't agree with him on many things at all, but I do agree with him on the two things he's supposed to be in charge of if he gets this job. The vaccines need to be looked at, and the food has to be looked at. We have just way too much stuff in our food. I saw somebody made a meme the other day about Wonder Bread and said, I ate Wonder Bread growing up, and, I'm okay. And then they showed the label from 1960 or whatever, and it was basically wheat, flour, salt, sugar, I think, and yeast. Now it's like a whole paragraph.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not the same Wonder Bread that you ate growing up. We got to get some of the stuff out of our food. It is literally killing us, and it's hard to eat healthy. It's expensive to eat healthy, but it's expensive at the grocery store. Long term, it pays off to eat healthy because your health will be a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're going to unfortunately talk a little bit about COVID today. I'm sorry about that because it just dominates the health news. But please call. If you call when you call us, I'll have to talk about COVID and COVID shots and all that. So Canada their scientists are calling for more research on the vaccine because they saw a big bump in heart deaths and heart conditions after the shot. It's hard to say it wasn't the shot, but there appears to be a problem there. And one of the problems is with the studies that were done. If you remember, there were all these rules when the shot came out. They said the shot didn't work till 2 weeks after you took it. So any side effects you had from the time of the shot until 2 weeks, they wouldn't blame on the shot. And yet, for some reason, when they looked at myocarditis and pericarditis, which happened particularly in young men and boys, it had to happen within 7 days. If it didn't happen within 7 days, if it happened 8 days after, they didn't count that. If it happened 9 days after, they didn't count that. So it pushed the numbers way down because we've seen a big bump in cardiovascular conditions since then. Now, it could be from the virus. I guess you could make that argument. But it's one of the two of them. And you remember the women had menstrual problems, and they didn't want to say it was the vaccine. But there are studies showing that if a woman who hadn't had COVID and hadn't had the COVID shot hung around somebody who had the shot, then she got menstrual irregularities with some predictability. And that was through the shedding of the vaccine. So those are some things. We'll come back to some other things here in a minute. One of the issues with our society is plastics. We make 57 million tons, I don't know if it's worldwide or just the United States, of plastic a year. And it does break down. If you bury it, it does break down eventually. Ultraviolet light breaks down a lot of plastics. I had a patient one time that got a rib fracture from sitting in one of those plastic chairs that stack up and people have in their patio because it sat out in the sun, and then they sit on it. It just fractured and drove the leg up under his ribs. So be careful if you've left your plastic chairs out for a long period of time. They do get brittle, and they will break. So if you're going to store them inside. But our injuries from that over here. But they're thinking we need to make some kind of rules that if you make a product in a plastic bottle, like this glass of water I got here, you should be somehow responsible for making sure. If you sell your product in a plastic bottle, you need to make sure that there's some way for the plastic to be recycled or redone or whatever. We don't really do that here. And it's hard to recycle plastic. And, it's made from petroleum products. And so there's a big push from the petroleum industry to just make more plastic things. And plastics, It's not a new word. It's been out. We had plastic for a long time. Plastic just means it's bendable and flexible. So one of the first plastics we had were cow horns. So they take a cow horn and they make a spoon out of it. They make a mold. They heat up the cow horn, and combs out of cow horns. So it was sort of the first plastic. And then we got into Bakelite in the early 1900s. A lot of radios were made out of Bakelite and sort of a brownish plastic with wood in it. But it's plugging up our streams, and, you know, there's a couple of shows I watch on YouTube. I think I told you before, one about the guy who digs the outhouses across America looking for old bottles, because outhouses were like the garbage disposal. And people would throw the garbage down there, or they'd have ash pits where they clean out their fireplace or their stove, and they'd make a hole for that, and they'd throw stuff in there. But there's other guys that go up and down creeks looking for these bottles. And if you're looking for a bottle of the Hutchinson soda bottles, what everybody wants to get, that was the first soda bottles we had. And they have a funny little blob top on them. And they're labeled usually about where they were made, and people like to collect them if they're from their hometown. But a lot of them here in the South. A lot of people on farms had ditches by the creek where they'd throw stuff in there. They were getting rid of their trash and also sort of stabilizing the creek bank so it wouldn't wash out the next time there was a big rain. But I think we need to go back to glass. Interesting, though, glass doesn't break down very much in the ground. You can dig up a really nice-looking bottle that's been in there 150 years, or from Roman times, that actually. You can dig up glass bottles. It's very stable, but it is very recyclable, unlike plastic, which is very difficult to recycle. Okay, Dr. Shira Miller said there is no proof that the MMR vaccine, the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine, is safer than getting measles, mumps, and rubella infection. Now, he's not saying that it isn't. He's saying there's no proof that it is. So all the clinical trials that were done on the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine, which aren't very many, by the way, none were big enough to show whether the vaccine was safer than just actually getting the condition, as far as talking about permanent disability or death. Was your risk of dying or getting a permanent disability higher with the shot or higher with just getting those three diseases? Because there's a three disease shot. And it says to die or to get a permanent disability from measles, mumps, rubella was so low, and it is also low in the shot, that you'd have to have a study of 50,000 people and follow those people to prove it one way or another. There's never been a study like that. So the truth is, we don't know. We don't know. And that's the trouble with most of these vaccines. There's not been studied enough before they were given to people. A lot of the studies, a lot of things we know about all these vaccines has happened to what's after we've cut them loose on the population. So there's also a question about, does measles, mumps, rubella cause autism? And, you know, there's only been, I think, one study that way. And they only studied that one. So CDC studied measles, mumps, rubella to see whether it caused autism. And they studied thiomersal, which is one of the components in the preservatives. And they said, no, they didn't think it did. And based on that, they said no vaccine can cause autism. And, you know, that could be like having a study with 17 different things, studying that compound with 17 different things in it and studying the effect of one of them and it not show an effect and then just say the whole thing didn't. But it's got 16 other things in there. That's the problem. We have lots of shots these days. And the only thing I say on this radio show is, and I've had about every shot, I've not had the shingle shot. So I'm guessing based on the commercial, I'm walking around with my eyes closed, if you've seen that commercial. I think they got to be studied. They got to be studied. But, you know, here's the problem with vaccines and medicine. They are like a religion, okay? To say something bad about a vaccine in the world of medicine, in my world of doctors, okay, is like going into church and saying that Jesus isn't Lord, or walking into a mosque and saying Muhammad wasn't a prophet. That's the way these people feel about it. That's the way these people feel about it. It is like untouchable, and it cannot be spoken ill against. And because of that, talk about having your eyes closed. These people refuse to even look at it. They won't even question it. They think you're like you've got a third eye in the middle of your head if you question anything along these lines. And therefore, there are no good conversations happen. It just becomes, like a religious argument. That's a problem we have right now. Somehow that's going to have to be addressed. It is the holy grail of medicine. It's the whole vaccine story. And really, if you look at it closely, they've really not worked all that good. Smart meters. We talked about smart meters before. And now if you're under a Clinton utility board, you've got a smart meter because they all have smart meters. I mean, Oak Ridge don't have one yet, at least. They're trying to put them up across the United States. If you need to avoid it, you need to write to the utility boards and tell them you don't want one. They're going to act like you don't have a choice. I think legally you probably do have a choice. What are the benefits to the power company? Well, they can look around and see who's got power and who doesn't have power faster than everybody calling in. That'd be one of their claims. Two, they don't have to send somebody out to check the meter to bill it. They can just check from the home office and see how much power you've used. I don't think they really help anything on the grid. I mean, maybe they can shuffle power around a bit, but what are the bad parts of it? Well, they do have significant radiation, and they'd be lying if they said otherwise. It might be an acceptable level of radiation according to the FDA or the CDC or whoever, FCC, whoever controls that. But it is more. Because I've had both kinds of meters on my house there in West Virginia, and I can check, and I've got numbers I can show you that they went up. Two, and the worst thing, I think, so it's a health issue with the amount of radiation. So someone asks you how much radiation is safe, the answer is 0. Radiation is not safe, okay? It's not how much we're going to tolerate as a society. But we don't hardly ever get a voice in it, is the problem. Other people making these decisions about how much radiation you're not going to tolerate. Your Wi-Fi in your house, I can tell you, it's killing you slowly. All these smartwatches and Apple earplugs and all these things, it's just slowly whacking away your health. But that's one side of it. The other side of it is they're spying on you. And I'm pretty sure that's illegal, that you can't spy without a warrant. They know when you're home. They know when you're not home. They know when you turn the light on. Now, they may say, well, you don't check that, but they have the data. They could check that. They could check all these things. They know to call the police if there's a big bump in the amount of power you use, and they think you're raising marijuana out back. So you're being spied on if you have a smart meter. Or you can be spied on, put it that way. But they're getting all the data. And are they keeping the data? I don't know. You don't know. They can make some money probably selling the data. And I suspect that certain people in the government want the data, they would give it to them. It's a spy device on the side of your house. You can trust me or not trust me on that. But it probably breaks some Fourth Amendment things. You may have heard that red dye number 3 has been taken off the market. So you may want to check your red dye at the house and see if it's got red dye number 3. You probably should pitch it. I expect red dye number 4 is on the block next, but this causes cancer. And, we're surrounded with all kinds of things that cause cancer, obviously. Otherwise, we wouldn't get cancer. This is about 40% of our deaths here in the United States. Funny though, when you look at cancer deaths, most people don't. I mean, they probably would eventually die of cancer, but on the way of dying from cancer, they end up dying from the effects of chemo or infections they catch because their immune system's suppressed. But red dye number 3. If you make red velvet cake, your red dye may have red dye number 3 in it. Maybe want to use something else. Or just call it brown velvet cake, or not put it in there. Drones. Remember all the drones over New Jersey, and there were drones over New Jersey a few years ago, too, in rural areas in 2020. What are those things? I don't know. But some things I think I do know. One, if it's got the flashy lights on it, it's a man-made thing. So you don't have to worry about aliens. Okay? I'm pretty sure aliens from Mars wouldn't put red lights to comply with the FAA if they were coming to Earth. So if it's got flashy lights, it's man-made. 2, there are technologies out there you and I don't know about. And these spheres, there are spheres called like military spheres, but essentially defy gravity. They have no propulsion system that we know about, like no propellers or pushing the air out or anything like that. And they can go up, down, right, left, and really fast. They seem to alter gravity around them. And what is gravity? That's a whole nother argument. That who knows what gravity is. But you don't have to worry. I think they were probably all American, all these things, which is why the military and all them didn't get too bent out of shape about it. I think they should have told the people. I think it was wrong to scare people for, 2 weeks there. And I don't know why they would have done that. Whether they were doing a good mission because there was some threat of something, or if they were doing a bad mission, I don't know. But we're going to see a lot more drones. That's just the way things are going. I don't think they're going to be people buying drones to fly around. I've flown some little drones, and they're fun for a few minutes, but after that, they get pretty boring. But I think military and stuff's going to have a lot more drones. They're going to be checking the border. I think part of Canada's agreement with the United States is they're going to put drones up and down the northern border to catch people coming across and drugs coming across the border. So you don't have to worry about aliens at this point. Are there aliens here? I don't know the answer to that. I think angels will qualify as aliens. I think demons will probably qualify as aliens. And then when the Bible says every knee shall bow of things in the earth and under the earth, what is that? What's under the earth that's going to bow his knee to the Lord? That's something to think about. I guess they technically wouldn't be aliens since they're living here, but there may be other things around us that we don't know. I always think of Elisha at Dothan when his servant was scared because they were surrounded by the army and trapped in the city. And Elisha told him, there's more with us than there are with them. And Elisha prayed, and his servant's eyes were opened, and he could see these chariots of fire surrounding the army. I think God knows what we can tolerate. If we could see the angelic conflicts going on all around us and demonic influences going around us, it'd be more than we could handle. But as far as seeing things, there is the aura, or chakra, or chi, or whatever you want to call it. It does seem that is a real thing medically, since we're going to talk about medicine. People do have an aura. Some people may be able to see it. But, I think if you've read the Bible, you know that your spirit doesn't necessarily have to stop at your skin. Paul said that was in the spirit on the Lord's day. Whether in the body or out of the body, I don't know. That's what he said. So your spirit and your body aren't necessarily attached to each other. And obviously, when you die, your spirit vamooses and leaves the body. I would say that there's a lot going on that we can't see, and it's pretty good. But as far as your aura, it might be able to be seen by some people. And it is a thing. Let me tell you, it is such a thing that your government and my government knows how to manipulate it and can use it electronically. And they have been doing so for at least 50 years. Have been messing with us electrically. You are an electric creature. You know, your body's electric. Your heart, that's why we shock your heart. Start it when it stops. That's why you have EEGs, electroencephalograms, because there's electricity running through your body, and we can detect it and pick it up and diagnose things on the basis of it. And your government knows that, and they've been messing with it for a long, long time. And they don't ask your permission. And I don't know, what's got to be done to address that. That's why all this radiation bothers human beings. We are electric creatures, and when we're exposed to these electromagnetic things, it messes with us. And somehow we got to tone it down, because if we're well on our way to 6G or 7G or who knows how many Gs there are out there, but all that's going to get up and get to higher numbers because they can transfer more information. Dr. Kevin McKiernan does gene sequencing. He took a tumor from the colon. You may not know, but ever since last 4 or 5 years, I don't know what happened 4 or 5 years ago, but there's been a big rise in colon cancer in young people. That's the old person's disease. Young people don't get colon cancer. Well, they have been getting colon cancer since then. And he did a gene sequence on the tumor and found the same genetic sequence that's in the Pfizer vaccine. So that's the BNT162b2 vaccine. And you've heard the term turbo cancer. I think we've mentioned on here before. These are fast-growing cancers that seem to pop up since the last 4 to 5 years. They tend to be more in people that have had one of the COVID shots. So people that had breast cancer 20 years ago and had no recurrence at all show up with metastatic breast cancer. That's one way it shows up. Another two, people get diagnosed with stage 4 cancer right at the onset. You know, it happens. It's always happened, but it's happened a lot more. People are getting aggressive and widely spread cancers at the time of diagnosis than they do in the past. Whether it's all the shot or to the virus itself, or who knows. But tends to be more in people that have had the vaccine. New studies show the prenatal exposure to the COVID vaccine causes autism-like behavior in neonatal rats. That's out of the Neurochemical Research magazine. So if a woman's pregnant, or a rat is pregnant, I can say that with assurance, if a rat is pregnant and gets the shot, the little baby rats, when they're born, tend to have autism-like behavior. New shot for adults, RSV for adults, and for pregnant women, so their baby gets vaccinated for RSV, respiratory syncytial virus, before it's even born. Might trigger serious neurological conditions, is a warning from the federal government. Yeah. I've been this for 30 years. I don't think I ever checked an adult for RSV. Respiratory syncytial virus can cause a thing called bronchiolitis in little babies because it causes the secretions to get thick and they have trouble coughing them up. But I don't think I ever had a child die of it. Had to hospitalize a few children for it. But now they want to immunize children. They've never been successful in a shot for RSV. It just seems to be difficult to make a shot for. But adults, you know, I just think they're doing it because they can. And they make, I think Arexvy is one of the brand names, and it may cause neurological conditions, according to the government. Fluctuating cholesterol levels were tied to higher levels of dementia. That's interesting. Because, there's been a bump in dementia. Maybe it's because we have more older people now, or maybe it's because some medicines people take. There's question whether there's some association of statins and dementia. The study found that independent of the baseline, so it didn't matter what your baseline cholesterol was, it really looked at total cholesterol and the LDL, or the bad cholesterol. It did not look at HDL. Or if they did, it didn't have an effect. But the total cholesterol and the LDL did not matter what it was at the start of the study. It did not matter whether it went up or whether it went down. Just the fact that it changed, that was tied to higher levels of dementia. And that's complicated. So, most of what we know about cholesterol comes out of a thing called Framingham Heart Study. There's a city in Massachusetts called Framingham, and they basically studied everybody in the town for like 40, 50 years. I mean, still be studying as far as I know. And that's where we got the whole cholesterol causes heart disease thing. Because we found people with higher cholesterol tend to have more heart disease than people who had lower cholesterols. What they didn't mention was that the study also showed that people with higher cholesterols were cognitively superior to those who had lower cholesterols. That means they were smarter. They thought quicker and better. So high cholesterol in that study was associated with being cognitively superior than people with low cholesterols. Maybe they had more heart disease, but they were smarter. So your brain is made of fat and neurons. And the insulation around all these fibers running from this cell to that cell, if you grab a wire here, it's got this plastic coating on it. In your brain, it's got a fatty coating on it. And I think the issue is messing with these levels of cholesterol in your body. Is it upsetting some of that or damaging some of that?
I think we got a call here.
Hey, stop the press.
Good morning. Welcome to Ask Your Neighbor. Do you have a question or comment for Dr. Ayers this morning?
Yes, I do, and thank you, doctor, for being there. My husband went to the doctor last week, and they said that he had pinched nerves in his hip and in his spine. And the lumbar 4 and 5 is where the pinch is. Is there any danger of him being active and doing things that he needs to do on a regular basis? Is there anything he needs not to do? He's been through therapy, and he's had MRIs and x-rays, and just wondering, what's next.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I'll answer broadly.
Okay. You're going to hang up and listen.
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
I jumped in here this morning because I think L5 on the right is about kaput, probably from loading that trailer out there. Let's talk about pinched nerves. Usually when a nerve is pinched, it's because there's some extrusion of the rubbery intervertebral disc, and it's pressing against the nerve. People get these bulgy things, and if you get an MRI, it's going to show bulging disc here, bulging disc there, whether you have any symptoms at all or not. It just depends on if it's bulging in the right place. If it's bulging in the right place, it may press on a nerve. It may extrude its contents because it's sort of like a Jello in a plastic bag. And if it got a hole in it, then the Jello would start shooting out. And when that happens, it can press on a nerve. And it may cause pain, and it may cause loss of function. Now, pain is one thing, and pain usually goes down a certain pathway. You can look up the word dermatome, D-E-R-M-A-T-O-M-E, and you can look up pictures and also distributions of the nerves in your legs and elsewhere. And usually by the pathway it's tracing down your leg, you can guess which nerve is being damaged with some accuracy. that's one thing that happens, pain. 2 is loss of function. Now, loss of function can be 2 ways, because nerves don't carry, some nerves carry messages just one way, and some nerves carry messages both ways. But let's say there's a message from your brain to your leg saying move. If it's squished enough, you may say move, and it don't move. Okay, that's a loss of motor function. And then there's messages from your leg back to your brain. You know, something's on my skin, or my skin is numb. I can't feel anything. The nerve is totally blocked. So you got messages going both ways. So those are the things. Now, maybe branches that go to other places, like, you know, with how you control your pee or how you control your bowel. But mostly around the L5, we talk about pain down the leg and pain in the back. Surgery for pain is about 50-50, meaning that half of them have less pain. Surgery for loss of function, I can't move my leg. My muscles are wasting away because there's no signal getting to them, or they're numb. It's pretty good for those things. But for pain alone, it's about 50-50. If he does something that makes it worse, then he should probably not do that. It's a knife that cuts both ways. If you sit around and do nothing, then your muscles waste away, and things just get worse all over. So trying to stay active is good. Sometimes these bulges will go away, and the pressure goes off the nerve. May come back another day. I don't think there's anything you can say, no, don't ever do that, because it'll just leave you paralyzed from the waist down. It's not that kind of thing usually. It usually takes major trauma to damage your whole spine like that. So if it doesn't hurt him, or it's tolerable and he wants to do it, then I think it's fine. I think reasons to consider surgery would be loss of function. Is his leg getting weak? Is he getting numb? Is he can't feel things when you touch his skin? Those things, you got a lot of pressure on the nerve, and you probably should think about at least talking to a surgeon. But everybody gets back pain at some point. Everybody gets back pain at some point. But a compressed nerve is different than just back pain. You know, particularly if it's in your legs. If it's in your legs, I mean, the nerve's really getting squished. Alrighty?
Yep.
Okay. JAMA. No, we won't talk about that study. One thing, word JAMA, by the way, it means Journal of American Medical Association.
Okay.
JAMA. Yeah. Pajama. Whole medical association's a weird bunch. You know, everybody's scared about this bird flu thing, and I don't know. And whether you drink raw milk and...
I was going to ask you if you heard anything about tuberculosis making a comeback.
Tuberculosis started to make a comeback when AIDS came out. It was pretty well whacked up and gone, and then you had all these population with no immunity, because it's hard to catch tuberculosis. I mean, it's not like, I mean, you walk in a room and poof, you got it. It takes some doing to catch TB, and I've not heard personally of any great rise in number of tuberculosis, but if you got people with deficient immune systems, you're going to see it. So Mycobacterium tuberculosis causes tuberculosis. Mycobacterium leprosy causes leprosy. Yeah. They're both very slow-growing things. That makes them very hard to kill. They're sort of like zombies. They're just moving slow and steady. And the faster the metabolism something has, the easier it is to kill medically, usually. So we've not seen a lot of TB. I mean, I saw a few cases in my life. Particularly people got on the Enbrel for like the arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis. That sort of leaves you up. That's one of the warnings on a lot of these MABs, monoclonal antibody things. And then now what about it in milk? Because that was one of the big arguments for pasteurization of milk. Pasteurization does clear tuberculosis out of milk. And that's where you heat the milk up to a certain degree and let it down and heat it up again and cool it off. But I've not heard any great increase. There's a movement back towards drinking raw milk, okay? So I drink raw milk with some regularity. I think if they want to scare you from drinking raw milk, they're going to bring up tuberculosis arguments. But I've not seen it. Now, as far as the virus goes and the bird flu, there's no evidence I know that pasteurization kills the virus. So whether you buy your milk in a store or you buy it from a farmer right from the teat of the cow, as far as the virus in the milk goes, the bird flu virus got in there, it's not going to make a difference. I don't know if no studies showing that pasteurization kills viruses. Once again, they're not really alive, so they're hard to kill. Are the benefits to drinking non-pasteurized things? Maybe. There's stuff in there that get killed besides bacteria when you heat it up and cool it off. So they really want to get these farmers that are selling raw milk. But I think there's a market out there for that. And we did it forever. I mean, it's a relatively new thing to pasteurize milk. And more like people were dropping dead right and left. You have to do it with some common sense in your head. I mean, it's really. People drink cow's milk all over the world, goat milk and all that. And what's homogenization, I guess? Let's talk about milk for just a little bit, because people really don't understand milk. Before you poured it out, once you just pour the cream off, or the cream would go to the back and then to the top, and all the rest of it goes to the bottom. People didn't like that, so somebody came with this idea: what if you just shook the living day? All the milk, all the fat gets broken in little tiny droplets, and it's scattered uniformly throughout the milk. So that way, when you pull your milk out of the refrigerator, you don't have to shake it up. It's still just like milk all through there. They broke up the fat into such small globules that they won't coalesce again and float to the top. That's what homogenization is.
Okay.
So it has nothing to do with the safety of the milk. It's just convenience of not having to shake it so that the fat comes to the top. Next, what is 2% milk? 2% milk is not milk that's had 98% of the fat taken out of it. Okay? That is not true. It's not like you're doing some major thing by drinking 2%. I don't even recommend 2%, but if you got milk out of a Holstein, one of those black and white cows, and you milked it, and you said, check the milk fat in this thing. How much milk fat's in this, or how much cream, basically, is going to come to the top? It's about 3.8%. If you had a Guernsey or a Jersey, they have more fat in their milk, maybe 4% or so, 4.2%. Maybe some breeds are more. So when you have 2% milk, you basically have a little over half the amount of fat. So since almost all our milk comes out of Holsteins, because Holsteins make a lot of milk, that's why people like Holsteins on dairy farms. They make a lot of milk. So you went from 3.8% milk fat in the whole milk if you bought that. Now you're down to 2% milk fat in your 2% milk. Okay? It's not 98% of the fat's gone. Not even half the fat's gone. If you've got skim milk, then that's 1% milk fat. It's not 99% of the fat's not gone. No, about 3/4 of the fat's gone. So that's what those are. I guess if you like them, but your body needs fat. It really does. Maybe your brain's made of fat. All the nerves are covered in fat. If you just start eliminating all the fat in your diet. And honestly, eating fat's not the reason people are fat. People are fat from eating tons of carbohydrates and sugars and things along that line. Your body makes fat, since you're a mammal. So 2% is about a little over half the amount of milk fat in whole milk. It's not that big a deal to drink whole milk. It sure tastes better, and you may be doing yourself some benefit. So that's the milk story. And the trouble about cream is that they add stuff to it.
I think we got a call here. I wonder if you want to check here. Good morning. Do you have a question or comment for Dr. Ayers this morning?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go right ahead.
I was just going to say, as far as like the smart meters go, Tennessee, the Senate passed a bill. It's bill number 2232. And it went into effect July 1st, 2024, that requires, like CUB, to have written consent from property owners before they can install a smart meter. And it also forbids them, if you don't want it, they cannot charge an extra fee to the property owners based on their decision about getting or not getting a smart meter. I thought I'd add that for people if they want to get rid of theirs. They should be able to call CUB and do it and cite that bill, Tennessee State Bill 2232. Then my question is, there are lawsuits beginning to be established about the Gover baby foods, and when the Gover, like Similac, the infant formulas, all of that went around about they were contaminated, which I was giving my grandson. And now they've found out. And I kept my Similac. I've still got it. I thought someday there'll be a lawsuit over this. And they've determined that there were heavy metals like lead, arsenic, mercury, one I'm not sure how you pronounce, cadmium, cadmium.
Right.
Are these things that could have caused his learning, his developmental, I should say, delays? He's 4 years old today, and he speaks some words, he doesn't speak words. He did have vaccinations for the first year of his life, and then finally his parents quit that. But I've always wondered in the back of my mind, could the foods and the formula that we had been giving him for the first several years of his life had caused any problems in that precious little brain of his? I'll hang up and I'll listen. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Well, I have to say thank you because I didn't know that because I was at West Virginia at the time. They switched my meter. They kept wanting to switch it. We told them no. We told them no. We told them no. They come to the house with a bunch of meters. We told them no. And then we had to go out for something, and they snuck up to the house, and they did it while I was gone. When they haven't, several conversations with them that I didn't want it. The fact that I'm moving makes it less urgent than it was, but I was planning to put up solar panels. Solar panels are bad about polluting because at some point they're no good and they have to destroy them and they have toxic chemicals in them. But I was going to try to go that route rather than mess with it. But it's good to know about Tennessee. That's what we call open source intelligence. That's one thing that Tori talks about, I mentioned earlier. Open source intelligence. If everybody sort of got together and divulged information that they knew, then we really wouldn't need the FBI or the CIA. Because people know stuff. And she just gave us good information here about Tennessee. Everything does not exist in West Virginia, where I'm from. So that's very good to know that you can get it taken off and that you don't have to get one. And why is it? Because they're bad. They really are bad. And I tell you what happens after you get one of them. They'll want you to have a smart thermostat. And then they can control your thermostat from Central Station, you know. And I don't think these people are bad that they did all this, because I'm sure this is a cool idea at some point, but you turn on your dryer and they say, there's a lot of power on the system now. I think her dryer kick on in about 3 a.m., you know, and not knowing you got clothes in there you need to get dried. I mean, that's what happens with those. But that's good to know. About the Gerber food, yes, it's bad that those things are in there, and yes, those things can all cause learning disabilities. All these heavy metals that are in anything we eat are bad. And the juvenile brain, the baby brain, is growing and changing a lot. Our brains at my age is much more stable. Okay? deteriorating but stable. A baby's brain is growing and changing a lot. It's very susceptible to insults like radiation, chemicals, heavy metals. Yeah, so it's just horrible. Now, is that the reason your poor grandchild has some worrying? I don't know. And the shots can do it. But, you know, a lot of studies haven't been done. Sometimes I think medicine doesn't want to know the answer to those questions, so that's why they don't do these studies. But I think someday, Lord willing, if time carries on, we'll look at the vaccines like we look at putting leeches on people to drain their blood. I mean, either you got a good immune system or you don't. I mean, like God didn't make a boo-boo with our immune system that we have to have all these shots to make it go. That's just ridiculous. It is just ridiculous on the surface of it. You should first feed your babies. You feed your babies from your plate, okay? Babies don't take special food. That's a modern invention. From the beginning of time, they didn't have little jars of Gerber baby food. They fed them, they smashed it up with their fork and got it in the form the child could eat it. Don't feed them jelly beans and pieces of corn. You know, you got to get it in the shape the child can have it. But feed your baby real food when it comes to eating. Don't be in a hurry to get your baby eating real food. They can live off breast milk only really for 6 months. Usually around 3 or 4 months, you have to tie people's hands together to keep them from feeding their kids. Mm-hmm. Don't feed your little baby mashed potatoes and stuff. Wait till they get big enough they can handle that. It's just at least 3 or 4 months, but definitely 6 months, I think you can start introducing food. We need to encourage breastfeeding in this country. It's more than it used to be. When I was a kid, hardly anybody was breastfed. They somehow thought that the Similac and Light was better than breast milk, which is just ridiculous thought. So breastfeed your babies. And I know parents got to work these days, but you can pump, and that's a lot of work, but most employers will tolerate it, the pumping.
Sure.
So, but yeah, heavy metals can cause brain. And like I have fillings that are the old amalgam fillings. I need to get them taken out because that's mercury in there, and it's just leaching into my brain. It makes it harder and harder to answer your questions.
Mm-hmm.
But that's very good thoughts, all those, and she's definitely on top of what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
So go back to the bird flu thing here.
All right.
If you just step back, pandemics where some germ run around the world would happen about every 30 years or so. Now, we're 4 years out, and it's acting so, we're going to get the bird flu pandemic now, and there could be another pandemic next year. These are all man-made little critters they've messed with. 11 were dead in this, quote, safe and effective vaccine stamped by the FDA, this bird flu vaccine. And UK's ordered like 1 million doses or so to give to their people. Best I can tell based on the studies, you have about a 1 in 20 chance of dying from the shot. That's pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not much on Russian roulette. You know, it's 1 in 6 with a 6-shooter. So 1 in 20? I'd rather risk the virus. Because not everybody gets it. There's a certain percentage of people who are going to get the virus and a certain percentage that don't. A certain percentage is going to get real sick with it and a certain percentage that won't. And the odds are safer. If you get it and die, don't blame me, but I'd say the odds are better probably with the virus. And remember, it's a flu. It's a single-stranded RNA, much like RSV. And all those can be treated with ivermectin or quercetin or hydroxychloroquine. They all can be treated. In fact, there's a study. I have it on here. So, there was a study from 2020, okay, which showed, it was a big article, FDA-approved drug, ivermectin, inhibits the replication of SARS-CoV-2 in vitro, that means in glass, from the Journal of Antivirology in 2020. Highlights, ivermectin inhibits the SARS virus. A single treatment caused a 5,000-fold reduction in the virus in the cell culture within 48 hours. That was before the shot came out. we knew that this FDA-approved drug killed this virus. And yet, no, you can't use that. Come on, you all. You're not cows. Don't take that ivermectin stuff. Yeah. So, why was it suppressed? Why was it suppressed? And then what comes about the learning thing with the grandchild. What about this autism thing? You can find studies both ways. I know when they quizzed RFK in this interrogation the other day, about all these, I can put about pile studies, this all shows that it doesn't cause autism. But, people were just sitting around one day and says, I wonder what's caused autism. I bet it's them shots. Nobody said that. Here's what happened. A parent had a normal baby, went to get his shot. In 2 days, the child's totally different. Okay? It wasn't like people just dreamed up and let's blame shots for the autism spectrum disorder or these neurodevelopmental disorders. It was happening. They could see it in real time. They had their little baby who was fine and normal, and the next day after he got a shot, he wasn't. That's how they come to tag it to the shot. It wasn't just strewn around. Then they question, was it something in the shot or was it the shot itself? That's a whole other thing to look at. But so obviously it was a temporal relationship between A and B. It happened with a lot of frequency. That's where they came up with the thought. It wasn't we just wanted to blame something. Let's pick the shots. And you should know by now, listening to this radio broadcast, that you can make a study, say almost about anything, depending on how you do it. There was a study out of Florida where they studied 47,155 children up to 9 years of age, and they showed that statistically speaking, vaccination was associated with significant increased odds for all measured neurodevelopmental disorders. There's seen to be a relationship to preterm and getting vaccinated. 39.9% were diagnosed with a neurodevelopmental disorder. And preterm and no vaccination, only 15.7% developed neurodevelopmental disorder. 3, the risk of autism spectrum disorder increased according to the number of visits that included the vaccination. If you had one visit that you got a vaccination in, you had a 1.7 times more likely to get an autism diagnosis as compared to an unvaccinated child. If you had 11 or more visits to the doctor where you got a shot, you had 4.4 times more chance of having an autism spectrum disorder versus an unvaccinated child. So, and that's, now, they don't want to study. Nobody wants to do the study. And so this is the war that's happening right now. West Virginia did pass a law. We're behind on the smart meters, but we did pass a law making it where you have religious exemptions to vaccinations, because until just the other day, you couldn't get a religious exemption for vaccination in West Virginia. There were no. If you didn't have your shots, you couldn't go to school. Wow. No, period. And, there wasn't an option since both parents have to work. We need to get back to where the mom can stay home. Yeah. That may sound sexist, but let's face it, moms are better raising kids, and they're geared for that than men are. And we need to get so where one income can support a family. Where we need 2 or 3 jobs that just has to stop. And there's a market out there for you people that are motivated for people to buy organic food. You could raise it on your farm. Like when I get milk and eggs and stuff, I buy like a share in the farm, basically. And they give me a right to so much milk and so much eggs. And still have to buy them, but at least gives me the right to get them. So it's cool. There's all kinds of arrangements out there. If you're a farmer, you can sell shares in your cow and then sell the milk. You get steady income from the share, but you get to sell the milk. There you go. So that's the news of the day. That's all I can remember.
Well, there you go. Until next time, guys, you know you can call 865-457-1380. Always makes the show better when we get to answer your questions, so make sure you write that down. The first Tuesday of every month, Doc comes and shares what's going on with us and tries to answer your questions. Anything else you got today, Doc?
No, when I was making up the show for January, I was feeling bad because I know all these things I say gets demonetized. But I said, I'm going to try it in January. I'm not going to say anything if it could possibly get demonetized. But then it didn't show up at all. Mm-hmm. So I figured, at least it didn't kill January.
It's fine. All right. We'll wrap things up today. We'll be back here. Do it again. Golly. It'll be March. Flying by. We'll be looking at springtime next time you get here. So, all right, guys, have a fantastic day. Stay tuned with us. Stay locked right here. Coming up tonight, 6 o'clock, trading time, prime time. Join us here for that Tuesday. Yeah, Tickle Me Tuesday. All right. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to AM 1380 WYSH and Ask Your Neighbor. Make sure you tune in at 10 a.m. each day, Monday through Friday, right here on AM 1380 WYSH and BBB TV 12. Or listen live online at WYSHradio.com. And remember, if you have a question, comment, or problem, call